Welcome back, I'm Tedward and welcome to the 2024 Nissan Sentra SR. It's powered by a 2-liter direct inject 4-cylinder making 149 horsepower and 146 pound-feet of torque. It powers the front wheels and it's connected to a CVT transmission. In the US, you're only getting the Xtronic CVT, which is Nissan's newest variant of their CVT. So we'll see what the reliability looks like. I saw a lot of comments in my Ultima video about CVT issues, and maybe the Xtronic is the ticket to solving that. But I will say there's a little edge to these CVTs in the sense that they are ultra smooth. And I think this Xtronic is pretty quick to react to the pedal. But this has its work cut out for it because the Sentra has to compete with the likes of the 11th gen Civic and the Corolla, and those are really good cars. But I do think that there is something about this car that still gives it a nice happy place in the market, and I think they'll do just fine. The SR is the top of the range and it starts at $25,000, so right off the bat the price is starting to look mighty fine. This one has the premium package, so it's priced closer to $27,000 to $28,000 because you get the moonroof and you get the premium audio Bose system with the 360 camera. That's actually really nice, and a 360 camera is not something that I'm getting in my Honda. Gluing us to the road on an 18-inch wheel is a 215/45 tire, so you've got a little bit of sidewall, but certainly could use maybe a 17 if you want to absorb all of the imperfections of the road. But the ride on this car isn't particularly harsh, despite its low-profile tires. Style-wise, this is a very sporty looking car, and I think that might deceive some folks because I don't think this is a particularly sporty car. It does have lovely handling, but this is not really a Civic Si fighter. It undercuts the Civic Si in price, however, but because you can't get this in a 6-speed manual, it definitely takes it more toward the premium market versus the sporty market. Let's start in the back because this is a very practical vehicle. Seating position, where I sit in the front, I have tons of leg room. This is a nice roomy back seat, fairly soft seats. I could see myself doing a bit of a road trip in this car, something I did not enjoy in the past in previous Sentras. I've done it in college. I would not recommend it, but just like Civic, you're not getting any rear ventilation, but you do get one USB-A charge port, so at least you're not forgetting about the rear passengers. And unlike the Civic Si, the Sentra gets the same treatment in the rear as it does in the front. We've got the deviated stitching here. We've got the same style seats with deviated stitching there. This is a more premium looking interior than I was expecting from the Sentra. It's pollen season and I'm losing. I apologize. But tons and tons of space. You've got a 40/60 split back there and a spare tire. Guys, there are very few cars offering a spare tire anymore. This is actually kind of a big deal. It's just a space saver, but a spare tire nonetheless with tools. They trust you to change your own tire. We like to see it. Big points for the Nissan. Let's take a look under the hood. And while we're down here, let's take a look at this pedal box. I have one big problem here, and it's this push-on, push-off parking brake. It's not that I hate a foot-mounted parking brake, it's that it's so far over. This should be way over here, and I know that interferes with the dead pedal. It's the one time I wish I had a little flappy parking brake right down there on the center console. And there she is, our 2-liter 4-cylinder. This is not a light hood, and there is no hood strut, so I am holding this. But this is actually kind of charming because there's no turbo. It's not a crazy fancy engine. It's just doing its job, and it gets it done. And it gets it done efficiently because this is rated at 38 miles per gallon highway, and I've been doing better. I've seen up to 45 miles per gallon indicated on this thing. So I gotta give it to Nissan. This is definitely a charming commuter car. On the door handle, you'll notice it has keyless entry, but you have to press the button. It doesn't have the sensors on the back, on the top. So if you want to lock and unlock the car, you've got to use that button. Clever driver's seat design, looks very stylish, and we've got power adjustments with, oh yes, lumbar support. So in this segment, for the price, this is already doing something for me because that's pretty premium. So enough about the style and the specs, let's get in and see how it drives. To start the Sentra, we have our push to start button down here. jumps to life pretty happily. Down here we have a really ergonomic and simple layout for all of our things. So that's something that I'm gonna give it points for, because I do like simple HVAC controls, things I don't have to really hunt for too much. This display definitely feels a little dated. It's nothing to write home about. Your phone will connect wirelessly through Bluetooth, but Apple CarPlay is only available through a cable. So you're gonna have to have wired Apple CarPlay. Not that big a deal, because there is also no wireless charging. Again, not really for me either. I don't love wireless charging. Your auto start stop when you come to a stop button, you can kill that down here. We will. There's no need for it. And you're going to get like 400 miles of range out of this thing. So you're probably just going to want to plug your phone in, settle in, and go for those long drives. To put it in drive, very simple gear selector. You can turn sport mode on and off with this little button down here. Got a flat bottom steering wheel to let us know that it's got a little bit of sportiness in mind. But honestly, I just don't think that's the point of it. I'm sure that brings people through the door. But I think the charm of this Sentra is that it's a really good little commuter car, and I found myself kind of liking it more than I anticipated. And right there, that's the charm of a CVT. You can pull away in this vehicle, and it is so incredibly smooth. And I think sometimes even I forget about that. I'm not a huge CVT guy because I just think it's annoying when you're trying to have like a canyon carving experience and you're dealing with a CVT. It's not my favorite. But I will say, in day-to-day driving, a CVT kind of smooths things out in a way that an EV does. And it makes it a little more stress-free. Keeps the revs incredibly low as well. So I think that's maybe where some of this fuel economy is coming from. The suspension's fairly supple. They did not go overboard with this and try to make it stiff to appeal to that sporty buyer. That's very frustrating to me. So again, you've got the SR badge that feels really sporty, and you've got some appearances on the vehicle that make it look like it's supposed to be some sort of Civic SI fighter, but this is much smoother than those vehicles. You've got to look at this and reframe it as the premium version of the Sentra. Look out, little squirrel. Really responsive. That's what you need from a CVT. It can be okay, as long as when you put your foot in it, it gets the revs up and puts it where you want. And I found this Xtronic CVT to be pretty improved over the last generation. I mean, honestly, when I move my foot, I see the needle rise. It's just almost directly connected, which is really lovely. There's my lane keep assist, which is kind of fascinating. There's no middle lane line on this. There's no yellow line on this road. So the fact that it just kind of buzzed on the steering wheel to let me know is kind of high tech. This road's the real test for ride comfort and quality. It's a crummy road. You're gonna feel everything, but it's absorbing it really nicely. I'm so thrilled that the entry-level market now is good. Like, there aren't junky cars. When I was in high school, if you had a brand new entry-level car, you were driving like a Pontiac Sunfire. And no offense, but like, they were tin cans that were just gonna rust away. The entry level now is like pretty darn good. And because the Sentra with the same powertrain starts at like $21,000, I wanna say, that's a lot of bang for buck. And maybe the value play is getting a less intensely spec'd out version of this car. Let's get it off the line. So jumping from a dig is not its particular strong suit. You don't have a whole lot of torque, and the transmission's trying to figure out what's going on. It has the simulated shifts at the top end, but you're gonna wanna make sure that you leave a little bit of space for traffic. You cannot just fill gaps in traffic with this car. Something that is nice though, is that they allow you certain buttons that I think are just so simple, and if I were in a Mercedes-Benz, I would probably be hunting for how to change the brightness on this display, and yet I don't have to play that game in here. I just hit the button and it's right there. I can set it from light to dark and adjust it accordingly for each side of the coin. Even over here, I just have my simple brightness tab, little tap there, and boom, we're all bright again. Handling wise, I just think this is a fun little car to drive. I don't think it's gonna encourage you to go chuck it into corners and screech the tires, but you could. And it's predictable. It's not too stiff. It's somewhat luxurious. I mean, isn't that what someone in this market actually wants? They maybe just don't have the money or space for a larger vehicle that's maybe more premium. And it's cool that you're getting premium features in a pretty much entry-level car. It's not a Versa, but you know, to me, the Sentra is still, you know, the lower end of the Nissan market. Frankly, I think it's more attractive than an Altima as well. Let's test out our little sport mode as we get onto the highway. It's going to keep the revs up just a little bit. There's no paddles on this car, so it's not messing around. It's like, look, we've got this. We're not fooling you with some fake gearing on this thing. We're just going to let it be. To get up to highway speed, you can't be shy. You've got to use that throttle. You've got to just ask it for what you want from it, and it'll be all okay. I mean, yeah, it's not a rocket. It's probably in the 8-second range of 0 to 60. Oddly enough, though, people are like, oh my goodness, I could never drive a car that slow. It's like, well, this is like what cars were. This isn't that slow. It's just that I think cars have gotten faster, but you can survive this way. Let's see if the Kia boys, oh my goodness. The steering feels less darty than the Altima. I remember the Altima feeling a little uncomfortable and nervous on the highway. It felt like they went a little overkill on the steering ratio to make that car feel a little sporty. The Sentra, this is so ergonomic and natural that this is maybe the one if you're going to be doing longer road trips, which is odd. Brakes though, I mean, that's like maybe the star of the show in this car dynamically. They function really nicely. Is something kind of enjoyable about being able to just go wide open whenever you want, because you will not be speeding. I can't remember the last time I was flat in a car for that long and still kind of just at the speed limit. All right, so we do have a lovely cruise control setup. It is adaptive, so if I approach cars, I can tell it how far or close I would like to be to them. It does not steer itself, so while it will buzz at me if I get close to that line, it will not self-center, so it's not going to take the wheel from me like the Honda sensing technology does. So that is one little tech strike against it if you're into that thing. I don't really use that so much in my car anyway, but sometimes it is helpful to have, and maybe it's a safety feature that you do want. It's recognizing the motorcycle in front of me. It's slowing me down. It's matching his speed. Very nice. The seating position also really lovely in this car. I feel like I'm nice and low. They got this right. And unlike the Hondas, you get a temperature gauge. Most of the Hondas just give you a little blue light to tell you it's still cold, and when that light goes away, you're ready to go. Road noise is present, but not obnoxious, not intrusive. Hondas definitely have some road noise, so I would compare these back to back and see what you prefer. But yeah, I think this is fine. This is fair. And with the Bose system, it's really good. You're going to be blasting your music anyway, and you probably won't notice it. There's your 0 to 60. I could do without the fake shifts. I don't need the simulated shift to let me know that the car's doing something. I kind of do wish that they would just let the CVT run out to redline or wherever the most torque is going to be and just sit there. Just sit there and let it be. But let's look at how the CVT reacts, right? So I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to put my foot down now. I'm going to lift, and it just sorts it out really quickly. I think that there's something to be said about these CVTs for those who are looking for like a comfortable, smooth ride. It allows for that. It really does. And this may not be the most harmoniously exotic sounding engine, but because it has a CVT, it's always trying to pin it down basically at 1,000 RPM, which means that it's not singing at you at $3 or $4 grand when you don't need it to. And you know, it allows this engine to be audibly present when you're on it, but when you're not, it kind of just disappears. It's really not intrusive. I have to admit, I don't think I came into this giving the Sentra enough credit, and having driven it for a few days, it definitely is a contender, and I think it has a lot to offer the audience that it offers it to. Now, I'm happy with my Honda choices, but I can't write this off, and it's a possible recommendation for someone who's looking in this sort of lower end market. And the value play on Sentra is, of course, going to be the entry levels, the lower trim levels, because you're getting really close to about 20 grand, $22,000 in there, and it's a lot of car for the money. But if you're looking at this Sentra SR and thinking, ooh, I could get a Civic Si or a Sentra SR, that's where I think that's off the table. You've got to look at this as more of a premium player versus a sports car or a sporty version of the car. It handles fine, dynamically it's good, but you know, you're running a CVT, and it's definitely a softer suspension than, say, the Civic Si. So, overall, I think this is a pretty strong car in the market. It's a little outdated. It needs some tech updates and things like that. But overall, fit and finish, pretty comfortable. More bang for your buck than I kind of anticipated. And there's features in it that I really like. I like having a 360 top-down view camera. That's pretty impressive for this segment. I think the rear seats are ultra comfortable, so if you have to have people around and you're putting adults in there and you're in a small car, this doesn't feel that small. So, you know, good on Nissan. I'm looking forward to what's next. I want to see what they have to offer, because I want to see them really come in strong and just make some statement like they used to. You know, that's what I love about Nissan was the GTR. The R35 came in like a raging bull. That car was a brutal statement, and they were targeting Porsche. They were targeting Porsche's turbo. I want those days back. So let's hope for more, but for right now, I think this Sentra is just more of a contender than I anticipated, and I'm glad I got to spend some time in it. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Holy cow, the moon is beautiful up there. I don't know if the GoPro will pick that up. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.